There's actually a hidden logic behind all your shopping habits. Seriously. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the theory of demand and show you the surprisingly rational science behind literally every single thing you buy. All right, let's just jump right in. Pizza or tacos? I mean, it seems like a simple choice, right? But in that split second, your brain is actually solving a really complex economic puzzle. And that one little decision? Well, it's the perfect window into this whole theory of consumer demand.
So to really get this, first we have to figure out what you actually want. And for just a second, let's completely forget about money. Just put it aside. Because economists have this super clever way of visualizing your preferences, your personal happiness for anything and everything you could possibly want. And they call it an indifference curve. Honestly, you can just think of it as a map of your happiness. Every single point on one of these curves shows a different mix of two things. Let's stick with pizza and tacos that would make you equally happy. You literally wouldn't care which combo you got. You'd be, well, indifferent.
But it's not just one curve, of course. You've got a whole family of them. The best way to think about it is like a contour map, but for happiness. The rule is simple. The higher the curve, the happier you are. A point on that top curve, IC3, is always better than a point on a lower one, like IC1. It's kind of the economic proof of something we all know intuitively. More is better.
So, what gives these curves their shape? Well, it all boils down to a simple trade-off. It's basically you asking yourself the question on screen, how many Sprites would I be willing to give up for one more Fanta and still be just as happy? That personal trade-off rate, economists have a fancy name for it, of course, the marginal rate of substitution. Okay, so we've got our wish list, our map of perfect happiness. But, wanting infinite tacos is one thing. Actually being able to afford them is something else entirely. So now it's time for a reality check. And in economics, reality has a name, your budget. In that reality, it's shown by something called the budget line. It's just a simple straight line that lays out every possible combination of two things you can actually buy with the money in your pocket. It is the hard limit on what's possible. Yeah, you can really just think of it as the line between I can buy that and I wish I could buy that. Anything on the line or inside of it is fair game. Anything outside of it, well, that's just a dream for now. It's the real-world boundary. All right, here comes the magic. This is where it all comes together. We're going to take your map of desires and lay it right on top of your map of reality to find the one single perfect choice that you can make. So first, let's bring back what you want. There it is again, that whole map of your preferences, all those different indifference curves showing all the levels of happiness. Okay, now, let's drop reality on top of it. See that straight line, AB? That's your budget. Boom. It just slices right through that universe of wants and instantly tells us which of those happy combinations are actually possible. So where's the sweet spot, the absolute best choice you can make? It's right there, at point E. That's the solution. Look closely. It's the one single point where your budget line just barely kisses the highest possible happiness curve you can reach. Sure, you could afford points P or Q, but they're on a lower curve. Why would you settle for less happiness? And this perfect sweet spot, it has a formal name, consumer equilibrium. It's just a fancy way of saying you're getting the absolute most satisfaction you can for your money. It is the single most rational choice you can make. And what's wild is that your brain is solving for this exact point every single time you're at a store. Okay, that's pretty cool. That's how one person makes one perfect choice. But how do we get from that one decision to the famous downward sloping demand curve that's in like every economics textbook ever? Well, this is the big reveal. It turns out it's a really beautiful, logical process. All we have to do is watch what happens to our sweet spot when something changes. So let's imagine the price of Fanta suddenly drops. And this is it. This slide shows the whole trick. On the left, watch what happens. The price of Fanta falls, so your budget line pivots outwards. Suddenly, you can afford more. You can reach higher happiness curves, so your sweet spot moves from E1 to E2 to E3. Now just look at the panel on the right. All we're doing is plotting those exact points. The price and quantity from E1, that's point A. The info from E2, that becomes point B. E3 becomes point C. You connect those dots and bam, there it is, a demand curve built step by step from rational choices. So that's the whole process right there. The logic is so simple and you can just do it over and over. You find someone's perfect choice, you change a price, you find their new perfect choice, and you just plot those price and quantity pairs. That's all a demand curve really is. It's just a map of a person's rational choices at different prices.
But what if I told you that sometimes this rule gets broken? I mean, that downward sloping demand curve is true almost all the time. But there are a few really fascinating exceptions to the rule, and it all depends on your income and the kind of thing you're buying.
So first, we need to know about two basic types of goods. You've got your normal goods, think steak dinners. When your income goes up, you buy more of them. Simple enough. But then you have inferior goods, like, say, instant noodles. For these, the opposite happens. When you get more money, you actually buy less of them because now you can afford to upgrade.
And this is what that looks like on a graph. And it's kind of weird. As your income goes up, your budget line shifts out, right? But just look at where the new sweet spot lands. This person is actually buying less of good X than before. The line that connects these points, the ICC, literally bends backward on itself. It's the perfect picture of someone getting richer and saying, yeah, I'm done with the cheap stuff.
Okay, but now we get to the weirdest of them all, the Giffen good. This thing is the ultimate economic paradox. It's a type of inferior good, but it's so essential, like a basic food staple for a very poor family, that when its price goes up, they are forced to buy more of it. Why? Because they can't afford anything else anymore.
I know, it sounds totally backwards, but think about it. If the price of your cheapest, most basic food went up, what would you do? You'd have to cut back on any tiny luxury, like maybe a little meat or vegetables, just to get enough calories to live. And that means you'd end up having to buy even more of that basic staple, even though its price just went up. It's a really rare and powerful exception. But man, it shows you just how complex the logic behind our choices can really get.